Hello and welcome to Phoenix Crypto. My name's Andy and welcome to another edition of Market Watch. So we've had an interesting few days. So I can't remember where we were on my last video. Might have been a few days ago now. And really what I was looking for, we had this trend line here. I was really looking for a breakout, which we got. In fact, that was a very nice long. And for those of you who have watched a number of my videos, I've talked about this trend line here, quite an important trend line, and I've dubbed it the most important trend line in crypto. And that's only half true, I guess. But what I mean by that is, and if I go out to the daily, you can see that trend line here, and it goes from the all-time high back in October right the way down. You can see the respect it's been given here, and again here. So why do I think it's so important? I don't really class this as being bullish until we get past this trend line. Once we get past this, I am expecting a much bigger move to the upside. However, we are struggling to get past it. So I've dubbed it the most important trend line in crypto. It's actually only one half, really. The other trend line that is incredibly important right now is this one up here, which has actually started back in, I think, July and again in September for the lows in those months, and is going up here. And what I've been talking about in a number of my videos is this gap. If I get the brush, this gap here, and I've been expecting probably for more than a week now for us to come down and hit this pocket and get a bounce off this trend line, and we haven't quite managed it. We've come close. What's that? That's 53.2. We're close. Haven't quite managed it, and obviously, because it's a trend line and it's trending up, if we were to come back down, let's just say tomorrow, the price is going to be a little bit high. So if we can get to around 52.5k and we get a bounce off here, I think that would be very bullish, and I would be very optimistic then that we would get sufficient momentum, liquidity, and velocity to kind of break past this trend line, which clearly, look at the number of rejections we've had here. That's 3 just there. Will be, this trend line has proved incredibly difficult. So I feel that we need to come back and retest this. And a lot of trading is all about testing a support or a resistance, whether that be on a trend line, whether that be just a flat support and resistance line, whether that's a spider line. Any one of these things, it's about finding support and resistance. And fundamentally, this trend line has been very difficult for us to break, and I think it's going to take a big move down, this bounce, and I think perhaps we might get either that will come straight down, something of that nature. So that's what I'm really looking for at the moment, and we will see. We'll see how things progress. I think the other thing I would probably want to call out really is the opportunities to trade over the last probably 2 or 3 days. So I've longed here. I was a little late about getting into this short. I called it quite early, but I didn't actually get into it until, you can see, this is midnight UTC. So I'm based in the UK, so that would have been midnight for me. I called it at about 9:30. So somewhere during this candle, I thought I think I called it a dip. I didn't actually get into it. Wish I had, but I didn't, because I wanted to see if this was just, we were going to dip down, hit a support level, consolidate. Reality is we didn't do that. We obviously dipped all the way down. I got in probably, it might have been here. It was around there. And that was a big move. I think on Bitcoin, I don't know, it might have been 500 or 600%. Sadly, I didn't get 500 or 600%. I accidentally longed instead of shorting. So I think I got a minus 170%, and then I made, I think it was 440% once I realised my mistake and got into it. So that was a great opportunity. And then we had quite a tricky couple of days where price is clearly ranging. Now it is possible to trade that. Problem I think is in a ranging price is you always want to look for a confirmation and get in, but by the time it's really confirmed, you're getting towards the upper band of the channel, where really what you want to be able to do if you're going to scalp this is you have to hedge and take a bet that, you know, we're going to bounce. You know, that's the only thing you can do. Now you can do it with market order, so limit orders, to kind of make sure that you're getting in at a good time, and that is a good move, because during this period price was reasonably predictable. I mean, it looks more predictable on the chart now than it probably did at the time. And through that, you're always looking for, are we going to pump? We did get a little bit of a pump, which, you know, I'll be honest, I didn't really get into. In fact, I got into it a bit late, and I wasn't really convinced that it was going to be, it was going to have the right momentum, really. There was a real lack of momentum throughout all of the weekend trading until we got to last night. I'm not sure what time I called this, but for me, this was a 600% move up on Bitcoin, and I was in a few other trades, so it was quite nice. Looking here, we've got this other trend line in red, you know, which is causing us a little problem. You can see that we've tested up here, rejected, come back down. We've closed above that trend line. Actually, was optimistic we would stay above it. That hasn't happened. We've dipped down a little bit further. We're now testing that trend line again. We've not moved too far down at this point. There is some liquidity in and around this spot here. So I'm hoping that this will hold. And I think we need to be able to consolidate and then build up some momentum to make it past this important trend line. Are we going to do that? I'm not terribly sure. And if I'm honest, I probably still wouldn't really be bullish until we come back down and hit this trend line. I think if we do that, I would feel a lot more confident in saying we're going to go up to, I don't know, 70,000 or more. At the moment, it's a bit tricky. I'm still in my longs. I've taken profit. Stop loss has moved to entry. So all good standard risk management. But I'm waiting. I'm waiting here. Let's just have a look on a couple of others. You know, cryptograph, really like this indicator. You can see here on the RSI, very bullish, very bullish. This is obviously a daily, so that was looking quite good. We'll see how that plays out, to whether that starts to kind of top out a little bit and curve back round, possibly. And I think the other thing that's important to really always get across is that, you know, price can't just zoom up forever. It has to take a breather, you know, and once it does, it consolidates, it'll move back up again. And actually, the best indicator to show this on is this one, which has got the Keltner Bands, which I'm a big fan of. So you can see here how price dipped down outside the band, and this band, you know, you can take it as RSI, you know, so so this is showing heavily oversold, and then it just consolidated for all of this period, and obviously it starts building up a level of support, which is right here in this green box, and you can see how the band moved down, and that's basically giving us more room to kind of shift up. You can see how this very sharp dip actually sparked the move up, which is the reason why, if I go back here, I really want us to come back down so we can test this and get that momentum. And then you can see we topped out over here. And again, while we've topped out, price just can't keep going on forever. This band is a good visualization of where price has to either retrace or it has to consolidate. So here, we have retraced slightly, but we're largely consolidating, and we're now towards the top of the band. And what may happen is one of two things. We may, consolidate for a bit more. The band gradually moves up, and then we can, move back up with it. So if I go to over, let me see if I can find a good. This is a 30-minute. Let me just go to a 4-hour. Here we go. So you can see how price zoomed up outside the band here, had to consolidate, moved up, it's dipped back down, moved up. So it's staying in that band. But you can see how that band, provides such a clear indication of how much room there is for price to really go. And of course, at some point, it then rejects off there once it's had enough, comes back down. You'll see this. I'm not sure which EMA line it is now. Providing an element of support and resistance. So you can see how, it tests it here, dips out down below, tests it here. So you can see, and of course, once you break down, we broke down here, broken down further, and now we got into this bottom part of the band, and this latest pump has really only just got us across the middle. And now that can just mean consolidation, could mean we move up, could be that we retest and go below. But this band shows really how much room there really is to move at any one point in time. Let's just have a quick scan on some other coins. Ethereum. So when I took this short a few days ago, that was a 960% move, so very nice, very profitable. This makes it look quite good, like it's moved up quite nicely, and which it has. But if you really go back to the 4-hour, you can see the move down and the consolidation. So within a day, yes, things may have gone from moved up quite nicely. But just like Bitcoin, we had a lot of ranging, and I think the difficulty was that we didn't really stay above, or below that trend line. We got above, dipped down, so that's been tricky. And of course, we've dipped down below this trend line here, and really now the key is getting back above it and retesting it and turning that resistance into support. Are we going to do that? Not quite so sure. This trend line is obviously, had a lot of issues. You can see rejected over here, so we've rejected so far, but does that mean it's going to be a capitulation and we come all the way down? Maybe not, The next one, Cardano, is a lot more interesting a chart to look at. Firstly, we've got this incredibly important trend line, which goes from the all-time high. I think I drew it on a different time frame on the daily. Goes to this all-time high over here and goes all the way down. And a few days ago, I was starting to think maybe the bottom was in, because we're resting in and around this trend line. And obviously, what's happened with when Bitcoin dumps, the rest of the market follows with it, and you can see Cardano's dipped down, and it got pretty low. If I'm honest, I mean that's a really bargain basement price, and you can see after the pump, it basically has just retested this trend line and has kind of rejected off it. The DBSI though is quite nice, and I think that reflects just how undervalued I think Cardano is at the moment. So what's going to happen now? Is Cardano going to go down even further? Is it going to break above? I think the key is all in Bitcoin. I think if Bitcoin can touch that trend line, maybe Cardano will dip down a little bit further, but I would expect it to try and get back above. And I think if it got back above, I think we'd be quite bullish. What have I traded with Cardano? Well, I entered a swing. I can't remember my exact entry. I'm still in it now. And I think it was about a 350% swing. I actually entered it midway through the weekend with the idea that I would DCA into it if it went really negative. And it went to about minus 200%. So, that's not great, but I was okay with it because it was a very small position. And I didn't DCA into it, and it netted, I think it topped out at around 330, 350%. So, quite a nice move. Sol, I'm not in a Sol trade, just to be clear on this. But and that was only because I had quite a few trades open. I didn't want to overextend myself, so that was always important. Sol's a tiny bit different to Cardano. I mean, similar in as much as we've got this important trend line that we keep respecting and testing off, but we've actually rejected off here. The upward trend or channel is normally quite a bearish channel. I mean, it's obviously bullish while you're in it, but at some point, once you break down below it, what often happens is you reject off it and you go down pretty big. And if I actually go to Ethereum as a great example of that here, where we had this monster move up for I think it's about 6 weeks or something, and you can see, and in all fairness to Ethereum, it did break outside the channel and came back up and then retested and stayed in, retested, stayed in, retested, eventually broke down, retested the underside of the trend line, rejected again, and then obviously we've had a big correction. So that's reasonably normal. Sol looks ripe for that, if I'm honest. How low can Sol go? I don't know is the honest answer. You can see these trend lines here. I mean, it feels like a big move to go down to 145. It's not a million, that long since we were there, October. It's not that far, but that would be a big move. Getting back above this trend line, I think, would be really important. And in all fairness, that looks reasonably good. We're at a line of support. If we can consolidate for a bit and build some momentum, maybe we can get back above. Litecoin's very similar, and it's similar to Sol in terms of that's an ascending channel. It's obviously been respected. You can see that here. We've broken down underneath it, and we've actually got quite a big level of support here. Now, the interesting thing for Litecoin is I already felt it was undervalued, a little bit like Cardano. I always felt it was undervalued, and if you we're in the daily here, so if I just you can see here that the all-time high, just at the candle, not the wick, is just shy of $400. We're here presently under $200. So we're less than half price. So I feel that when we think about how much more Litecoin's got to go down potentially, I don't think it's a huge amount. Even in the low during I think it was July. I think that was the absolute lowest, was over $100. So that's still quite significant from where we are now. But I'm not sure if I can see us going all the way that far down. Tell the truth. But like Sol, we really need to get back above this trend line. Really, that's the key thing. Litecoin doesn't get the same press as a lot of other coins, but it is one of the oldest, and therefore I think there's more existing support for Litecoin, but there isn't the same level of retail enthusiasm for Litecoin, that you get for AVAX or currently Gala, Sand. Some of these gaming coins are the new darlings at the moment of the crypto space, and people Mana, are going in quite heavily on So Litecoin's not really a particularly popular coin from that perspective, but actually I think it's quite a solid coin, and I quite enjoy trading it. In fact, I traded this move up very successfully. I think it might have been, believe it or not, 2,300%. Well, just under 2,280, I think. So I quite like trading Litecoin, but it looks difficult at the moment. Of the swing trades that I opened Cardano, XRP, and Litecoin and Bake a few days ago over the weekend. Litecoin really underperformed, and in fact, when it dipped down, I actually had to DCA into it because it was looking. I think I finished around 200% in the profit, but it got as far down as 450% negative. So, it's really lacking a lot of momentum compared to some of the other coins, if I'm honest. And I think it's not really helped by this trend line here. So, I would probably turn and say one of two things needs to happen. We either need to get back above that trend line, which is possible, or which it might be classed as unlikely, but I think it is possible, or we'll actually come down, consolidate, and actually build a brand new, channel and trend line to go up, and that's probably the more likely. At some point, coins do run out of steam. The only thing I would probably say is Sol is towards the top of its targets, in terms of recent history, whereas Litecoin, as I've established, is substantially lower than its recent history. So, it probably has a lot more room to move compared to Sol, as an example. And XRP, similar a little bit to Litecoin, in the fact that we've got this again ascending trend line which has been respected a number of times, which is great, and but you can see we've broken down pretty big there. We've obviously got this bounce. What is going to happen? We're still quite a way off that trend line. Are we going to come up and retest it? Will we have enough momentum, velocity to get above? Not so sure. Are we likely to come down? And I think this is really going to put into question really what is going to happen for this bull cycle. Is when we go back to Bitcoin, is 69k, is this the top? Is that it, for this cycle? What is going to happen next? And the only thing that I'll come to, this is VMC's Morpheus, which I quite like, very similar to Market Cipher, which I also have and like a huge amount. There's just a couple of small differences that I particularly like in VMC Morpheus. That means I like to use it. What I would turn around and say, if I go to the monthly, we had a nice green dot here last month in October. We're coming to the end. Today's the month end. You can see the RSI's dipped down there. This feels like a bit of a FOMO type pump. Kind of we've peaked a little bit, but there's a bit of a there might be a divergence. And in fact, if I go to the 2 week, you can see that that there is a clear divergence. So if I just draw that here, if I go to price, you can see. Let me just get rid of Wolfpack Pro for a second. Let me turn off some trend lines. You can see a divergence. Divergences do have a habit of playing out. We've got a red dot here on the 2 week. The VWAP has crossed the zero just ever so slightly, and it's clearly looking pretty bearish. Could it magically zoom back up? Of course it can. This is crypto. Do I think it's likely to? Probably not. That divergence isn't brilliant, if I'm honest. I mean, that looks like we could be in for some tough times. If I was to go back to, this is a 2 week, isn't it? You know, I mean, this, where is it? This period was May, this big dip, and no one really enjoyed that too much, right? This is a trigger wave, you know, for those people who trade with Market Cipher, and that generally means that we're in for an even bigger dip. What does that mean for price? You know, does that mean that we're going to test back the, you know, the lows of May? You know, are we going to go lower? You know, that is probably the worry. How much support is there going to be? So, you know, the predictions that have come out from Plan B, you know, is talking about things like we're going to meet, we're going to be at 98k this month, 135k next month, and that was from his floor model. You know, his predictions have been, you know, extraordinarily accurate. This one's missed. You know, it's missed quite big, in all fairness. You know, he's a cleverer man than me, and I'm sure he will reevaluate his models. I think he said previously that he had for his stock to flow model was still 100k in December. I've got to be honest, this doesn't look like 100k is coming. You know, when I was looking on the chart and looking for this trend line here, let's just zoom in, and talking about a bounce here, you know, and going up. I mean, that looks tricky, really tricky, you know, and that means again we're in a ascending channel. What have we talked about? You know, just on this video, possibly a breakdown, right? And how these can be quite bearish, and as much as once you start testing and coming out, you know, we're testing the top of these at the moment and rejecting off, but you know, what's to stop us, you know, and then you know, what's to stop us, you know, testing this, bouncing off, testing it, you know, dipping underneath, we retest the underside and dip down. And I don't want to scaremonger, you know, I'm just trying to turn and say that when you look at the macro trend, you know, this is what we can see, and coupled with that 2 week red dot, the divergence, you know, it's probably cause for a bit of concern, a bit of worry. When you look at the 1 week, you know, this has already played out. This was a few weeks ago, so this has already played out to a degree. So that could easily come back up again. If I go to the daily though, that's VWAP looking very nice, coming back up. You know, we just need that to be sustained. You know, to be able to get a larger move up, that would be really nice. 2 day just at the 0 line. No green dot yet, but surely a matter of time. Well, I say a matter of time. Surely, if we stay above the trend line and you know, that might occur. Maybe we might see in a few days. That would be a nice trigger wave, and you can see a nice trending up. You know, which would be quite nice. 3 day curving round, but obviously not quite there yet. You know, I would argue that that wave is smaller than that wave, so that's could be a nice trigger wave. So there are some bullish signs in there, but equally that 2 week does look bad. One thing I will say though is it's not uncommon, a bit like here, where you have a red dot and then you have a green dot quite close to it. You'll probably see more examples on a weekly and a daily. There we go. So this doesn't have to mean that we're definitely going down. We're going to hit $30,000 or $20,000 or something ridiculous. It could be a small dip, but a small dip for 2 weeks could be on an hourly or 4 hourly or even a daily, can look pretty bearish. It's also really important for price to consolidate before big moves up. And while on the hourly, let's just zoom in a little bit. Things like this does not look like it looks quite volatile. When you look at things on a daily or weekly candles, this doesn't look that volatile at all. So it might be that this is just a consolidation that needs to happen before we move up. So these are the things to look out for at the moment. And I think just going back to where we are today, I think the short-term trades really is what are we doing in and around this trend line here, or whether this line of support holds. It currently is at the moment. If it continues to hold and that VWAP comes back up, that would be fantastic. If it doesn't, then that could be a bit tricky. I do just want to put Wolfpack Pro back on my screen, so you will see how many indicators I've got access to, which is significant. Hopefully Wolfpack Pro does come back onto my screen. Not sure why it hasn't. There we right. Now I've got it twice now. Brilliant. I just want to explain the value of Wolfpack Pro when you've already got Market Cipher, and it's actually on the 30-minute. Now there were a number of time frames that were showing golden crosses, and for anyone who's followed some of my videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Wolfpack Pro, and these green diamonds which happen on trigger waves and then followed by a golden cross is normally a sign of a possible breakout. And you can see one here, but if you go on multiple time frames, so if I go to the hour, another one there, divergence, I don't know which time frames to pick now, no, not one here. There's number of time frames start having these golden crosses. One here, 8 hour, got one here, and it's the confirmation where you've got so many time frames are showing these golden crosses. I was very optimistic that we were going to get a bigger breakout, a lot more optimistic, and I felt the price was, and particularly on the 30 minutes and the hour, you can see the Bollinger Band here tightening and getting and contracting, and that's really called the squeeze. And it's like having a coiled spring basically, and at some point price just jumps up, and that's what we got. So we had a clear divergence, which I know I could have drawn, and once you start getting some of these signs, that really gave me the added confidence last night that in entering the trade and then going to bed and sleeping through all the fun bits, that we were going to get quite a big move. And I think I set one take profit target, but I outlined to my group that, look, I think we might have a little bit more room here, and what the next possible target was, which we did in fact hit, and that's really the value of Wolfpack Pro. It does add so much more information on top of Market Cipher or VMC Morpheus that I really I couldn't trade without it. It does give me that extra added confirmation that just is very difficult to get anywhere else. Anyway, this is by far and away my longest video, so I will cut it short here now. Thank you very much for joining me. If you like the content, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, really appreciate it. And join the Discord community and join in some discussions. Thank you very much.